This is Josh Friedman in Kiev, Ukraine. I am at the Maidan, the famous square where Euromaidan and other major protests have taken place. Nearly 3 years have now passed since the Euromaidan protests that led to the ouster of Ukraine's pro-Russian president Viktor Yanukovych and the election of Ukraine's current pro-Western president Petro Poroshenko. Well, nearly 3 years later, Poroshenko is facing accusations that he has betrayed the spirit of the Euromaidan protests and that rather than rooting out corruption and enacting reform, he has just allowed more of the same to take place in Ukraine. The man leading those cries at the moment is Mikhail Saakashvili, the former president of Georgia. Saakashvili, a couple years back, at the time was allied with Poroshenko. He came to Ukraine, was given Ukrainian citizenship, and became the governor of the Odessa region here in Ukraine. Well, Saakashvili abruptly resigned as governor of Odessa, and he then started speaking out against Poroshenko, accusing him of corruption and not enacting reforms. Recently, Saakashvili was outside of Ukraine. He was in the US at the time, and Poroshenko abruptly canceled Saakashvili's citizenship. There is a legal battle going on, and it's disputed whether or not Poroshenko had just cause to do so. Well, nonetheless, Saakashvili forced his way back into the country. He's actually a stateless person right now. Saakashvili is wanted in Georgia, where he's accused of abuse of power, and the Georgian government is demanding his extradition and wants to put him on trial in Georgia. Saakashvili gave up his Georgian citizenship to become a Ukrainian citizen. Well, so when he lost his Ukrainian citizenship, that left him as a stateless person. Nonetheless, he made it back from the US to Europe. He hung out in Poland for a little while, and on Sunday, he managed to barge across the Polish-Ukrainian border, aided by his supporters who overwhelmed the Ukrainian border guards. Initially, he tried to cross into Ukraine by train, but he was effectively booted off the train, and then he forced his way in along with his supporters. Ukrainian authorities have served Saakashvili with papers. He is due in court in the Lviv region in western Ukraine on September 18th, which is next Monday. But right now, Saakashvili is in the middle of a tour around Ukraine in which he's trying to rally the opposition and unite the very fractured Ukrainian opposition against Poroshenko. It's unclear whether Saakashvili actually wants to run for Ukrainian president or whether he would support someone else's candidacy. At the moment, it seems like he has bigger things to deal with and figure out. But, so he came into the city of Lviv in the west after marching across the border, spoke with supporters there, was hanging out in a hotel that was mobbed by media. He then yesterday held his first rally in what he's calling this tour around Ukraine. He held that in Chernivtsi, a city in the southwest. And Saakashvili now plans to circle around the country, possibly next hitting Kharkiv in the northeast, followed possibly by Dnipropetrovsk and Odessa in the south, before on September 19th, next Tuesday, I believe it is, coming here to Kiev and probably to the Maidan, where he's going to try to rally support both for him getting his Ukrainian citizenship back and for the opposition to grow in strength and numbers and to rally against Poroshenko. Now, that is the biggest storyline in Ukraine at the moment, but it's not the only thing going on both here and in the region. Today is the start of a major Russian military drill that is taking place in Belarus, not too far north of here. It's called Zapad, or West in Russian or in other Slavic languages, and this is basically an annual Russian military drill, but it's a very large one. Rumors have it that there are going to be something like 100,000 troops taking place in this drill. It's a joint Russian and Belarusian exercise taking place in western Belarus, and they're simulating attacks on Belarus and other stuff. Now, Poroshenko, prior to the drill starting, warned that this could be used as cover or effectively a Trojan horse to launch another invasion of Ukraine. And when making that argument, Poroshenko cited the facts that in 2008 and 2014, prior to entering Georgian territory and prior to the takeover of Crimea, Russia held military exercises that occurred in the lead up to those two invasions or military incursions, whatever you'd like to call them. And some people are saying that they were effectively Trojan horses that spearheaded Russia's invasions of Crimea and Georgia. So some people are worried that the same could happen here, with Russia possibly invading another area of Ukraine using Zapad, the military drill, as its cover. I wouldn't say the chances are too strong of that happening, but it does have some people on alert, and it's a major issue going on in the region, and who knows, it could lead to some sort of confrontation with NATO troops who are stationed very closely nearby. Western Belarus is right by Poland and Lithuania, which are both NATO countries. So that is taking place right now. That will be taking place for the next 6 or 7 days. It's scheduled to take place today, September 14th through September 20th in Belarus. Also, there is still war in Ukraine. The war in Donbass, the eastern area of Ukraine, rages on. This has been going on for 2.5 years, and there's really no end in sight, although what's been in the news recently is that Russian President Vladimir Putin is pushing for UN peacekeepers to be stationed in eastern Ukraine, basically on the dividing line between territory controlled by Ukraine and territory controlled by the Russian-backed separatists. It's being debated right now whether that plan is actually going to happen, but as the talk continues, the fighting goes on, and there have been more than 10,000 people killed in this war in Donbass in eastern Ukraine, and by the day there's still more shelling, more firing, more military attacks taking place. So Ukraine is still very much at war as it deals with these internal issues and other external issues that could pop up. These are some of the major storylines and major things to consider when looking at Ukraine at the present. I am in the middle of a trip around Ukraine. I started out in Odessa about a week ago. Odessa's in the south. I'm now in Kiev, in basically the center of the country, and I'm going to try to hit several other spots, or at least 1 or 2 other spots. First and foremost, I'm going to try to catch up with Saakashvili. I don't know what's going to happen, but he might go to Kharkiv next, and if he does, I'm going to try to meet him there and at least film one of his rallies, or maybe another rally somewhere else before he hits Kiev, and then I'll try to catch up with him in Kiev, assuming that he actually does come here next week on the 19th. So I'm going to wrap things up from the Maidan here in Kiev. Those are some of the things to look forward to over the coming days and possibly weeks. I will be in Ukraine for the rest of the month. All right, goodbye from the Maidan. See you somewhere in Ukraine very shortly. And by the way, if you did like this video and other reports on this channel, please subscribe to the channel and leave the videos likes. Thank you and goodbye.